All right, so tonight, this is our last Agile discussion group of the year, and it's called Let's Experience Lean Coffee. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So to get started, let's begin with some introductions. I'm Bob Phillips. I recently joined the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and I need to make this announcement that I'm expressing my personal views. They do not reflect where I work or the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. If you've worked with me before, you can tell that I really enjoy working with Agile teams. And with that, I'll pass it over to Nitin.
Thanks, Bob. I too am an Agile enthusiast. I am the Agile LCI chairperson, and I enjoy empowering teams and planting seeds and getting them into a state of reflection. I work with startups to establish teams that are in a hyper-productive state as well, to teams that have just tanked. I use Kanban to run my personal life. I've got a few things from StrengthsFinder to just give you a better sense of my psychological profile. And hey, we're two palindromes. You might get two perspectives, but there's one philosophy. This works.
All right, well, thanks, Nitin. And so now I'm going to take everybody to the Trello board. And hopefully I brought up the right one. Does everybody see the first item as doing Agile without Agile teams? It's PMI Agile LCI Feb March September 2021. Is that the right board? Just want to make sure.
Nope, you got to get to the December one, Bob. Let me put the link on the chat also for others who might join late or may have joined late. Well, let me see. Or you can just go back one, Bob, and you should see it.
Okay.
Let me find this. So I just put a link in the chat. If you have not signed up or you did not send an email to me before the session, I have to add you manually. And Trello will send you an email thereafter.
All right, Nitin, can you share the board? Because it's not letting me have access to that board.
Okay, and can you add people in the background then?
I can't access the board for some reason right now.
Okay, hold on. How do I share? Yeah, give us a moment, folks. Let me see if I can share first.
Yeah, Nitin, I want to echo what Stacy has put in the chat group. The December board is blank. Nobody's posted anything yet.
Yep, the December board will just have two cards, one under instructions and one under the to-do. So it is a fresh slate. So that's why it's blank. John, can you pull up the Trello board and share?
Can I?
That might help me.
Sure. Yeah. Let me kind of clean up this folder first. And if you can give me a moment.
Yeah, because that way I can quickly add people in the background as well.
Okay, so I'm going to share my Trello board then.
Just added Amit.
So those interested in security,
okay.
I guess
you see the Trello board?
Yeah, there it is. And that's the right one.
All right, thank you, John.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to add Anand here, which was the last request I saw. And an invitation has been sent to Anand's email. So you got to look out for that. But irrespective, we have started sharing, and we can kind of follow along this way as well. Bob, would you like me to give a quick overview of this?
Yes.
All right. So for those of us who've not experienced lean coffee before, this is a very interactive, dynamic setting where we allow people to add some topics of interest, and then we use some sort of a democratic process and rank these, and we just talk about these. It's a visual concept of flow going from left to right. So what I'm doing right now are just offering instructions. Hey, if you do have access to the board, you can click on the plus, add a card. If you're not talking, put yourself on mute. And I see one person or two people already adding cards. And then eventually we'll start moving things to the right. So if you notice the to do or discuss, there's a card that I'd already put in, which is something administrative. Hey, add people to the Trello board because I know that's going to happen, right? And while that's happening, we can also just click and move cards over to another bucket. So in a moment, we'll see that it's in progress.
Okay.
If things are blocked,
So you
we can
wanna
add
move-
them in that bucket. I already moved it. It'll refresh.
Oh, okay, you moved it. All right.
And eventually we say, hey, this is done. We're done talking about this. And if you have any aha moments to share, we can certainly do that as well. If you have trouble adding to this, you certainly can access the chat in Zoom, add a topic there, and I can try to quickly copy and paste there. So that's a sense of the flow. That's something Bob and I will facilitate talking through. And if it's a little slow initially, don't be surprised. It is just part of the process till we start getting some more topics here under the to do or the discuss.
Nitin, if you can post the link to the Trello board again in chat for those who have attended late. You want me to move those questions to the to-do column instead of the instructions?
That'd be great. Yep, that'd be perfect.
I'm sorry, Nitin, but I'm trying to follow your link, but it's not allowing me to add. I'm unable to create an account. Can you help me with that?
Maybe you can work that on the background with Bob Phillips instead.
John, Trello's not behaving right.
Okay.
I can't access it.
All right.
What is the Trello link? Because I haven't gotten it. This is a
Yeah.
Nick.
So
Good evening.
Nitin will post the Trello
I'm
link
gonna do
again in
that.
chat.
So
Yeah,
bear
that
with
would
me.
be good. That would be cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Let me do that.
Yes,
And again,
Bob.
once you get
Bob
the
Mayer,
link,
you're gonna have to.
Mhm.
Well, I was gonna say, Bob Mayer, you posted something in chat. Yes, you're gonna have to create an account with the email address that you've given to Nitin.
And if you we don't want to spend too much time on this, you can always put the item in chat too. We can add it to the
Oh, that's
board.
right. Why don't we do that? Add a card. Where's the link?
And Nitin and Bob, we also put timing. Don't we have a timer or something set for each of the topics so we don't get locked in on only one?
Yep, that's a good call. We do have about a 5-minute timer we keep. I keep it in the background and it'll start making some noise. Yep, and I'm getting a lot of similar requests. Basically, the way Trello works is, hey, if you have an account, you log in. If you don't have an account, you'll be asked to create an account. And again, if worse comes to worse, you can always put a few topics in the chat of Zoom, and we'll kind of put a copy and paste over there for you. So again, bear with us. It's a little administrative overhead. We run into this at times.
And then Nitin, you might want to share how to vote.
Yep, we'll do that. Just adding Young Chan. Thing is, I have to just switch screens very quickly. The next person I'm adding is Elizabeth. Bear with me. This is also known as a silent writing exercise. And why do we do this? It's because there's some people who are introverts, some people who are extroverts. If you were, in a conference room or ask people, hey, what do we think we should talk about? And you get different voices from the room. And some people might be feeling shy, and some people are naturally more verbose. So with that, with the silent writing exercise that we're attempting to do, we get more information, more topics of interest this way.
And then the other powerful thing about this is, as a group, we'll then get to, if we were in the same room, we'd do something you would call dot voting. And that would allow the group to basically put what they were the most interested in talking about. And what would end up happening is the more people that are interested, there would be more votes, and then you would be talking about the thing that the majority of the group feels is the most important. And in a minute, Nitin's going to share with you how to actually add votes to these items so that we can actually simulate what that would be.
Let's just give everybody some time. I'm seeing a lot of good topics coming up in the to-do or discuss section. And again, I'm also starting to see some confirmation. Hey, I'm in, thank you. So I know the process is working. It might be a little slow, but it's happening. So the voting aspect, and I'll lean on John for this. John, if you could hover over any card and click, I think it should open up a details page. That's fine. Mm-hmm. And if you notice somewhere on the right, you have some more options. Join, member, checklist, data attached, etc. And there should, or typically there's one one for a like or a thumbs up or a vote. Not seeing it right here. But that's another way of voting. So the more likes we get, that kind of gives us a sense of, hey, what do people want to talk about first? But if not, and I'm not seeing it right here.
I'm not seeing the voting here.
Yeah, that's fine. A facilitator can also just take over and kind of club some of these cards together, or ask which one we want to talk about first. But I don't know, maybe Trello is acting up today. I'm not seeing that thumbs up or vote.
Yeah.
Let me try Barbara up. But again, we are getting some great topics. They're not too many. I've got a feeling we might be able to just knock these out very quickly.
You want to just get started, Nitin?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So the voting button doesn't seem to be working. You're right.
That's fine. Maybe we can go top down.
That sounds good.
Take it from there, because there are only a few things, and again, I think we're just facing some technological limitations today, folks. I apologize.
All right.
But so this is how it is. You pick a topic. How do you motivate a team to so small to?
How do you motivate a team new to Scrum?
New to Scrum. Okay. So John's moved that over in progress, and then we kind of talk about it. So again, this can be a little interactive. Bob, any thoughts on this one? Because I've been blabbering quite a bit.
Sure.
Can we, I know I don't know who monitors the chat here, but there's still, a few people who are not able to join, including me. Is someone monitoring the chat?
Yeah, Anik, we're doing it in the background.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So go ahead, Bob.
What I do, and it's been successful over a number of years, is I share with them what Agile and what Scrum is, and really start with the Agile values, Agile principles, Scrum values, and really help teams understand, what it means to actually be Agile. And a lot of people often miss that aspect of it, only because there's a tendency for teams just to jump straight into Scrum and doing the events and generating the different artifacts. But what I find is you really want to get people excited about Agile and what it can do and how it really empowers teams to self-organize. What do you think, Nitin?
Yeah, good points, Bob. I always try to get value in front of people and look for opportunities to plant seeds, something small, a few quick wins, and say, hey, you're already doing a lot of these things, and give people a sense of comfort and familiarity, and see what would just say, aha, okay, this makes sense, or this saves me time, or this causes less stress, or things that become more transparent. And when people start seeing the benefits in smaller chunks, they get a little bit more accustomed and a little bit more curious with Scrum.
Does anyone in the community have any ideas we could share?
This is to address how to motivate a team new to Scrum. Is that what it?
Yes, exactly.
topic?
That's the
Yeah.
topic.
So for people who are new to the team, I just had to run a presentation or like a lunch and learn and walk them through the Scrum, framework, if you will. And I think this is, they were interested in the topic, but I think it's a good way also to motivate them and get their feedback even on the process.
That's great. That's great input, because like I have what I call a 3-part training series, where the first part I go through, what Agile is, it's pretty much the philosophy of Agile, and you guys have seen pieces of that. Then I go into part 1 where I talk about the Scrum roles and artifacts, and then the next part, and the final part is the Scrum events. And then I basically have examples and I share with them on a team. And the team I'm working right now with, these sessions are normally an hour, and the team I'm working with now, they're so excited and they're asking so many questions. They're taking like 2 hours each, which is really good, because I could tell that they're very eager and anxious to learn, and because of all the questions in it that they're asking.
Yeah, it's very engaging.
Hi team, can I share something?
Sure.
One of the technique, actually, I found it since I'm coming from extensive waterfall, over 20 years of waterfall background, is usually I focus on the weak point of waterfall, the pain area of waterfall, that usually people behind schedule, over budget, change management is so difficult that once the baseline is set, usually I have found from my experience that going from this approach to the pain area of waterfall, usually, because if somebody is not doing Agile, probably is doing waterfall in most of the cases. So to show them incremental delivery, and also change is welcomed anytime. That's it. You have to approach people from the pain area. It would be much easier than trying to sell them a new concept. Okay, I'm doing waterfall. You're coming up with a new framework. What's in it for me? Something like that. So usually go from the selling point of Agile over waterfall. What do you think, guys?
Are you asking the community, or?
No, I'm sharing my feedback, because you said the point being discussed now is how to approach team to sell Agile. So I'm just sharing my technique.
Okay, when I started early in my Agile journey, I did exactly that, and I found myself getting into conversations about, almost like bashing waterfall, and I found it's better not to go there. At least in my, again, I'm just sharing you my opinion, my experience. It's better not to start really degrading waterfall. Basically what you do is you say, hey, we're doing this agile waterfall, waterfall is different in this way, showing those examples. Don't, like I wouldn't give anything negative about waterfall because it's tried and true. It's been around for years. And for some projects, it's the best solution. So because then sometimes you might get somebody that really likes waterfall and you'll get into these arguments and it ends up being not that productive. But it's just, just my opinion.
I fully agree with you. I'm sorry, I misrepresented my point. Waterfall is very successful in certain area or certain industry or application over Agile. I fully agree. I'm sorry, I misrepresented. But if a team is facing some challenges following waterfall, this is the right candidate to sell to them. I'm showing them the selling point. I don't mean to say waterfall is good or bad, but how to solve the problem. They have a business problem, and this is how to solve it. That's it. Without going into a debate of who's the best of the best, things like that. So I agree with you, Bob.
Thank you for
What I do sometimes is I'll take the iron triangle and then I'll just turn it upside down. Scope, time, and cost. And basically, because you're in Agile, you're not really defining what your scope is. You're defining, I have a team for 1 year, 5 people. This is how much it's going to cost. So that's fixed. Now, what you deliver, that's a variable. So that sometimes I give those examples as far as, when we get into the comparisons between waterfall and Agile and the benefits of it. And yes, thanks for clarifying.
Yep.
Okay,
Time
Bob.
check, Bob. So we had the beep
we're
beep
5.
there. So we'll be on 5.
Yeah, we're in the 5 minutes already.
Okay.
So I'm
good.
gonna move that to the done. And
Yeah,
then
we
we're
can say
gonna,
it's done for now.
all right, next one. Since there's no voting, we'll just move the next one to the top of the queue. So which is the most important ceremony in Scrum?
And I'm going to start the timer. Ooh, this was a dangerous question for me at an interview.
Mm.
And I said, do I have to just pick one? And I said, oh, but okay, no matter what I say, I'm probably going to have someone disagree. This is so subjective. I personally think every one of these is important. But here's what I told people at that interview years ago, and I didn't get the job, by the way.
So this is good advice. Okay.
Yeah, this might be good advice. So I said, the sprint review is probably the most important to me, and I didn't realize the room had gotten a little bit more silent at that stage. I said, but let me explain why. You're building something, right? You're trying to solution something, but if it's not tangible, right, and you can't throw darts at it, then you may not have made a lot of progress, right? No matter what methodology, what approach, be it waterfall, Scrum, something Scrummy, maybe Kanban, if you can showcase something, and get some sort of a feedback loop and get feedback, and it's not very far-reaching. And I was talking to a bunch of Scrum Masters in the room, and they had other opinions as well. So that's just what I had answered, and I can answer this differently as well today. But Bob, any thoughts?
Yeah, when I go through the events in Scrum with my teams, I always, when I talk about the daily Scrum, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I do say it. I say it's the most important event because basically it's where the team plans their work for the day. They identify anything that's slowing them down. They do all their coordination. Yes, it's a very short time box meeting, but just again, in my opinion, I think it's the most important one. Even, but you're not doing Scrum if you're not doing all the events. But if you were to pick one, I would say the daily Scrum. So what does everybody else think?
All of them are very important, like what Nitin said in the beginning, because without proper scope sprint planning, you don't know exactly what to do based on the capacity of the guys. Without the daily stand-up, people will not communicate to each other and will impact transparency, right? And then after you complete the work without sprint review or iteration review, the product owner will not acknowledge whether he got exactly what he's looking for. Without retrospective, people will not get to learn lessons learned, how can we improve into the next time. So I think it's a framework, it's a all component. There is nothing important over something, pick and choose. No, there is nothing like that. This is what I see. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
Alpesh,
think you would pass the job interview.
Alpesh, you posted an answer in the comments. I don't know if you want to share it personally.
Sorry, say again, John?
No, Alpesh,
Okay.
Yeah, I
participant in the script.
can. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you. So what are my 2 cents? No, each events are defined with specific purpose and they hold a value. So if I have to answer, probably my response would be all meetings have a clear agenda and all are important in their own context. But sometimes the questions are being asked to look for what is important, and it's like a flip question. And I use the analogy of automobile, whereby which part of automobiles are important. Really speaking, people could say engine or something like that, but in reality, all the parts are important and they won't work together if you remove one.
That's good
Yeah.
systems thinking, Alpesh.
You're not doing, if you don't do an event, you're not doing Scrum. Don't fool the business or your team.
Yep. There's
And if
much more wisdom here than what I had a couple of years ago, or maybe the way I presented myself in the interview, you know.
is that
Sorry, a
the
little hard
time
to
box
see.
saying it's over?
I'm keeping
Yeah.
time here. We have about 25 seconds left for anybody
Mhm.
on a comment.
All right, for those that are going to take the CSM or PSM exam, how many Scrum events are there? Come on, be brave.
I think 4. Just refresh my.
There's 4 that are very visible, but if you're taking the exam, they consider the Scrum, the sprint itself an event. So there's 5. Like if you're doing a 1-week sprint,
That's right.
2-week sprint, 3 or 4-week sprint, that's considered an event as well.
Okay, if there's background noise, please mute yourself. I'm going to move this to done. We're going to go to the next question. So the question is, what is the difference between management and leadership? I know the PMI definition for the difference there, but Bob and Nitin.
Go, John, go.
Well, the PMI definition is that management is doing things right, and leadership is doing the right things. That's the PMI definition. But again, thoughts? Anybody? Oh, thank you for the clap there, Alpesh.
Oh, you very well said.
Yeah. So, but that's the definition that PMI goes by, difference between management and leadership. Well, this is a very short discussion topic. Any other thoughts from anybody else?
And very quickly, there isn't anything explicit about this in some of the Agile practices. And it's a general question, we can apply this irrespective, whether it's waterfall or different flavors of agility, right? Anybody like to compliment the management that they're a part of at their organization, be it profit or nonprofit? What stands out? What's different?
Well, I mean, the question of, we're still on the question of management and leadership, right? Which
Correct.
is really a broad question, which goes maybe beyond Agile. But in Agile, we have a tendency to talk about servant leadership, where the leader acts more as a coach, as a visionary, as the one who carries the vision and inspires people, and more of an influencer, not in a social media sense, but as trying to engage people. And so, yeah, I would say maybe servant leadership for Agile. And management, this is a distributed management. This everybody has to pull together and swarm and come together. Self-organization, right? So, is there some management functions? Yes, let's be realistic, but yeah. Yeah,
I'm
I
hearing
think
different
that would
styles of
be my
leadership.
my view, you know. I'd love to hear Nitin and Bob and John and everybody on the call.
Yeah, this is dangerous because you can't contradict the PMI definition, but that John started with, you know, this is
So
a
what
PMI
is PMI,
ADG.
the PMI definition, sorry?
No, I mean, the simple definition, as I was saying, was that management is making sure that you do things right. And leadership is you're doing the right things. So that's
Yeah.
sort of a
But
poetic
that's
way of differentiating the two.
right.
And we
So
can
one is,
disagree or
Mhm.
go ahead, Anna.
yeah, no, there's no disagreement, but it's all very narrowed because it's also one is the management is only an instrument of doing things, and it's the how, when doing the right thing is on the strategic initiative, on the prioritization, right? So, but there's more to it, more to manage, to leadership and management, certainly leadership than this, that's for sure.
All right,
Yeah,
we have
some good
another
comments there, Annick.
we have another minute.
Yeah,
Who posted this question? Did we answer that question for you? That was whoever Al is, Al SH. Did we answer that question for you? Okay, I'm not hearing. So okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question then.
Oh,
If
wait,
I'm
can
not
I
gonna...
add something?
Oh yes,
Can I
please,
add-
please
Okay,
do.
yeah, I just want to add something to that because interesting enough, I just switched jobs, and I would say in my old job, my boss was more like a manager, but I think where management could be good or bad. Leadership, when you see it, is really good. You know, that's what I've seen. You know what I mean? So if something's going bad, chances are it's bad management. It's not leadership. You know, so like I see with my new manager, like some key things about being a strong leader is transparency. Like I've been in this job for like a week. I've been in a ton of meetings with this guy, and I just see him consistently being so transparent, giving a lot of bad news, and because he's being truthful to keep the team focused, you know, on what they need to in terms of risks and issues that have like come up. So I don't know. I think there is a big difference between. I think when you have a manager who has strong leadership, that's a good place to be. Definitely. Just adding that.
Okay, so our 5 minutes is up. I'm going to move us to the next question then. Whoops, excuse me.
And thank you for that feedback and sharing.
And that's there. So the next question, and I'll read that. Whoops, if I can drag it. My bad here. And the question is, what are your thoughts on the changes to the Scrum Guide over the last 5 to 10 years?
I think the Scrum Guide evolves. Typically, we see a revision every 2 years, and they're good, meaningful, insightful changes. Some of them might get a little annoying. We used to, many years ago, have examples that have been taken away. We used to have the chicken and pig joke, I think, somewhere that was taken away. I think cultural sensitivity had people changing some verbiage from something like grooming to refinement. There are things that were added, such as the articulation of a sprint goal, which wasn't mentioned earlier. There was a distinction between the team versus the Scrum team versus members of the dev team. And then even that caused some confusion. So they elaborated with simply saying, hey, if you're contributing towards the increment, then consider yourself as part of the dev team. It doesn't mean you're necessarily coding. So it's interesting and it's lightweight, and it also leads to colorful interpretations and misinterpretations. So I like to keep a close eye on this. Responsibilities as a word was changed to accountabilities, you know. And there are a lot of these subtleties there that if you're particularly taking the PSM tests, level 2s and 3s, they really want to make sure that you understand this more so like a Zen guide more than anything else. So those are just some of my thoughts on this over the years and what came about.
And as far as my thoughts too, I totally agree with what Nitin said. It seemed to have a lot more information as far as how to do certain things earlier, but they seem to be, every update seems to provide less and less. And I think it's because they want the team to figure out how to do it, because they don't want to feel that if it's in the Scrum guide, the team has to do it this way. And as far as one of my most favorite updates was adding the Scrum values, the courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. I can have retrospectives around these values, and these are all really important things that help a team work better together.
Yeah, and just to supplement what Bob said, I think one of the revisions, maybe 3 revisions ago, was just this. That's all they added.
And it's great. And the minute, because when I do this with my team, I say everything starts with respect. Like if we don't respect each other, we're doomed. And so you build on that, and they're really powerful and they're very helpful. Anybody in the community have any thoughts?
Would it be safer to say that it is becoming less prescriptive, more simplification of a language for wider audience?
I wouldn't say the Scrum guide was prescriptive in the first place, and you really can't be too prescriptive with a guide that's 16 pages long, includes table of contents and acknowledgements. And they intentionally say, and they're very clear, hey, it's a framework, not a methodology, right? But it is getting a little bit more lightweight. And I think it's also coming across that way because people are starting to scale, and there are different flavors of scaling. So Scrum is trying to accommodate some of those scenarios as well. It does have rules. Now here's the interesting thing. When you look at the Scrum guide in the title, it says the rules of the game, right? So, and again, they compare this to a game of chess. When you look at a chess board, it's very familiar. There's certain spaces, there are about 2 players on the board, and there are rules. But how you end up every time is different, or could be different, right? How a person moves a pawn or a horse, and so on and so forth. Same thing with teams. You might have 2 or more teams in an organization. They're doing Scrum, but how they do some things and what are the team norms and agreements could be different. So there's certainly some guardrails as rules under Scrum, but I don't consider that prescriptive. Some people do, and I'm not saying you're alluding to that, but it's certainly trying to be as lightweight as possible. Again, just my thought process.
Yeah, thanks, Nitin. I got your point. Like prescriptive may not be the right word, but less would be
and one thing, it just coaching hats and coaching styles. There's another analogy used in the industry called the Shu-Ha-Ri model, which comes from martial arts. So the shoe is when you're just starting off. Tell me what to do, and that's where the team might be. The ha is as you start experimenting, you get a little bit more familiar and you blend in things. And whereas the re is when you become a master and you kind of become seamless in your moves, your kata, and everything that comes together depends on what you're facing, right? So when people are at a shoe level or just starting off, you might find people say, hey, the Scrum guide says X, Y, and Z. And they're wait, that sounds kind of prescriptive to me, Whereas the re person understands that philosophy and the why behind it, and will try to see if there's any wiggle room or accommodations while still respecting what was in the guide. And again, just using Scrum as an example, there are other flavors as well.
And I don't know if you've seen, usually when they come out with a new guide, Jeff, one of the writers will come out, talk about it. And I attended one with Jeff, and he seemed to be very proud that it was 10 pages. So it seemed like that was like a major thing for him. He was trying to get less pages. So I just thought, you know, he mentioned that a couple of times when he was talking about it. So.
Okay, so again, this question came from Al. If did we answer your question? We'll move that to done.
Oh, we'll do a time check. And do it to
Yeah,
done.
that was 5 minutes. So the next question is, when should the developers on a Scrum team be replaced? Interesting. And that question comes from also Al. I don't know who ALSH is, but if they can clarify, perhaps it seems like a scenario question, right, gentlemen?
I think I can answer this very quickly whenever it makes sense. It is a subjective thing and it's very broad, but don't tie Scrum to a lack of common sense, irrespective of methodology. If you're finding that there are issues with any member of the team, and it could be behavioral patterns, it could be knowledge-based, it could be something else. If you need to replace someone, replace them at any junction. If you want to look at some sort of utopian state, try to do it right after the sprint review, so that when a team is getting into sprint planning, they either have one less person or they have a new person onboarded. Now, that'll certainly change the dynamics of what happens ahead. But if I could pick, you know, just like they say, hey, pick that one event, Nitin, at the interview. So if there's that one event or one junction, I'd say replace the person right after the sprint review. Hey, wait a minute. Sprint review was my other answer too. But open thoughts with others. What do you think?
Well, Vasantha, you shared an interesting thought on the chat group. Do you care to tell us about it? Vasantha, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So
You're welcome.
yeah, so if it's technical, then I don't have to say. They should be given enough training, proper understanding of the technology, and upskilled, and you know, that is very obvious. But we face these problems when we have some behavioral issues, and you know, they're not gelling and syncing up with the other team members or something like that. In that case, I guess the Scrum Master, the product owner, or somebody who is you know, a leadership role within the team, they can counsel them, coach them, and say that the issues are resolved. I mean, and put them back on the track. I don't see that as an option at all in Agile or Scrum. So removing a developer is not an option at all.
I think what you're doing is approaching this with great practicality and empathy, right? Give people a chance, hear them out, try to understand what's going on. And again, irrespective of Scrum, Kanban, other flavors of agility, waterfall, hey, what's going on? You know, how do we get back on track? How do we become a cohesive unit of one, right? But unfortunately, there could be instances where something is not working out. But what I found is sometimes just people rotate to another team, right? It's not that we're being harsh and letting go of a person in an organization. And sometimes their contributions might be better received, or they gel better just with a different group, you know? And what I've also seen is developers that are struggling that choose to resign. You know, Scrum brings in so much transparency that the spotlight's right on the team and it trickles down to individuals. And it can be uncomfortable for some people at some stages. But again, it's not a negative or derogatory connotation. If you can repurpose someone, then why not do that? And I agree with you completely. You know, the coaching, the mentoring, the counseling, that should always be the first step.
And I can speak out of my own experience. You know, in the recent past, in one of my project, I had a very senior, like 18 years experienced developer who had communication issues. Like we just didn't understand why he was talking. I mean, he was rude, childish sometimes, and you know, we really couldn't make sense of what he was speaking. He was all over the place. He wanted to take up all the tasks himself. He was a full stack. He wanted to grab the UI, he wanted to grab the database, everything. So like we sort of tried to coach him, try to reason out it with him, but then we understood that it's better that the other team members adapt to his style. So we are like so harmoniously working than what we started in the first phase. Like we sort of now we understand that person well now, and we all have adapted to his style. No issues anymore, no complaints anymore. And
That's great.
yeah, so yeah, sometimes it works. And yeah, and we have figure out a way to give him the task so that he doesn't disturb others, and and it still helps us achieve the sprint goals. Yeah, we figured it out as a team. Yeah,
That's
all.
great. That's great. This sounds like a happy ending, and I want to see a sequel to this as well.
Yeah.
How are we doing on time, John?
We got about 10 seconds, well, 5 seconds left now. All right, I'm going to move that to the done column too. And then next question, oops, keeps on doing that. The next question, I'm just going to reword it a little bit here. It says, so I'm going to, is that what is the relationship between a Scrum Master and the product owner?
I could take a pass at that one. If you're familiar with Dan Pink's intrinsic motivators, purpose, autonomy, and mastery, this product owner does the team's purpose and the Scrum Master does the team's autonomy. And the product owner's job is to, I don't want to be blunt, but to push the team as hard as they possibly can, because the product owner has business objectives to meet, and they're the ones that want the team to deliver. And the Scrum Master's job is to protect the team and ensure that the team is working by the 12 Agile principles, and one of them is sustainable pace. You have to keep on reminding them that, so you don't want to end up doing 80, 100-hour weeks. So it's a back and forth type of motion, and it really depends on the experience of the Scrum Master, because I've trained a lot of product owners that have been working with my teams, and I help them get ready for the different events. But it's a very fun relationship, and you as a Scrum Master have to remember that your job is to protect the Scrum process, and a product owner's job is to get as much they can out of the team. But you're responsible for protecting your team and making sure that the Scrum process is followed. That's a short definition from Bob.
Yeah. So Nitin, I would describe a Scrum Master as somebody who would be preparing the stage, preparing the ground for the product owner, and the product owner to lead and the team to perform.
I agree. And Scrum is also very categorically saying, hey, the Scrum Master serves the product owner, the team, and the organization, So in servitude, in that style of working, just create that environment of harmony and efficiency as best as possible. And as Bob said, it can be fun sometimes. There is some natural tension that could emerge, but that could be healthy as well, If you have a significant other, it could be like that, Could be how my wife and I interact on some days.
Exactly.
Sometimes my wife is the product owner. Some days I might be the product owner.
Right, you're right.
And if you have kids, they might be members of your dev team, and you have to give them chores or things to do or clean up, So one of us has to, facilitate, be gentle, make sure the requirements are understood, have a check, because the product owner is going to come and just check and make sure everything's good. And if mommy's happy, then okay, that's the acceptance or thumbs up, right?
Scott Klein,
Scott
Klein, you made a comment in the chat. Do you want to share your thoughts verbally?
I thought the joke about attention is always good, even in your household, and I was like, oh, tension is good for engaging, just like a product owner and a Scrum Master, engaging a good conversation tends to create new ideas, but in a household it leads to couch sleeping.
Sometimes the couch might be more comfortable than where you were sleeping earlier.
You
And
must have
then-
an
and then you're
amazing
miserable.
futon, my friend. I
Hey, we're
prefer
going, this is going somewhere.
I prefer to be a developer and just keep my head down in that case.
So
Okay,
if
and I say
we
that
if
it
we
is a
go
bridge
back,
between
I'm sorry.
the
If we go back a step to our previous topic, maybe we can look at product owner as a management side and the Scrum Master on the leadership side.
With one distinction, because Scrum does call out a Scrum Master being a manager, which was baffling to me because this came right from Ken Schwaber. And it's a classic trick certification question as well. It's like, what do you mean a Scrum Master is a manager? You know? Well, a Scrum Master could be considered a manager of a process or a gatekeeper to what Scrum brings, right? But again, you know, if you go with PMI and management and leadership, I think that can also blend in here. But again, you know, for some people, you know, getting into certifications or training, particularly if you're looking at the PSM, yep, Scrum Master has been considered as someone in a role of management.
Okay, we're coming up to the 5 minutes here, and we do have only about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to move that question to the done column. And the next question is, when does a developer become the sole owner of an item or task on the sprint backlog?
When they volunteer for it.
Never. The backlog is a collective ownership, collective responsibility. I don't see that situation at any point of time.
This is that trick question. Nitin, tell us that one event that is most important. I said, just one? But I agree with what was said. You have the sprint backlog, and that is truly collectively owned by members of the dev team. But if it's the sole owner of an item or task of the sprint backlog, it's not by assignment. It's when someone says, hey, yeah, let me take this on. Then okay, you've taken it on, you're accountable for that. But at the end of the 2-week or 4-week or 3-week cycle, when you're offering a demonstration and you're getting the review, the product owner is not going to piecemeal who did what, right? They want to look at the collective wisdom and collaboration of this cross-functional team that has hopefully been working as a unit of one. Any other thoughts?
I totally agree with what you said, Nitin, but if the team does sprint planning part 2, where they actually break the items into subtasks, then that person that volunteered for the item, the other team members can help, because basically you're breaking the work down. You know, one item might have 5, 6, 7 tasks, and then during the daily scrum, the other team members can help. And it's totally correct. No, the team owns, you know, what's in the sprint backlog. It's not, it doesn't really reside with one individual. Any thoughts from the community?
Okay, then this may very be, I'm going to move this to the done category. So this next question may be the last one, because I'm showing it's 6:54. So this is a kind of interesting question actually to end on. Any relation between micromanagement and agile process? Let's not all comment at once.
No, micromanagement is like sort of we are you know, pushing things onto people and the developers, but agile is a very democratic and, like, you know, participative approach. So you plan your work, you define your goals, you pull it into the sprint, you decide, you estimate. So everything is happening collectively. So I wouldn't you know, use that micromanagement to, I mean, there are two different things. Wouldn't be good to relate one to another.
And that's a lot of times that's what scares management, when when all of a sudden you have these self-organizing teams and management's no longer telling them what to do, which if they get too detailed, it becomes that micromanagement that you're talking about. And that's a scary thing for some companies, but it's so cool. When you hit that sweet spot, there's nothing better. When you have a team where the product owner says, I want this, this, and this, then they say, okay, they take it, they do sprint planning part 2, they figure it out, say, okay, product owner, this is what we're gonna do. And that's it. It's so powerful.
I would 100% agree. As if you're planning out through the sprints and just having even the daily stand-up, so someone, product owner or representing the business, that they would get feedback, see the daily progress, have the questions, answer the questions at a quicker pace. I think that would kind of nullify any micromanaging. Like they're getting updates, they don't have to look over their shoulder. They see the daily or typically bi-weekly process and progress in the entire project. I think it would, like to your point, I think it would nullify micromanagement, just the transparency piece.
And
Bob, minor question, which is going to go back to an earlier card. The updates to this Scrum guide, instead of going on part 1 and part 2, they go by topic 1, topic 2, and now there's a topic 3. Topic 1 is the articulation of the sprint goal. Topic 2 is the pulling off the work, and topic 3 is the breakdown of the plan. So again, just more professorial knowledge out there.
It goes the same. You can tell people that have been doing this for a while when they start calling backlog refinement, backlog grooming. Like that's one of my the key triggers when somebody starts calling it grooming. I go, oh, you've been doing this for a while. So
okay, any other thoughts on this? We have about 3 minutes left in the evening.
Yeah, so I also think the prioritization and sprint planning and the product features they prioritize, that removes any room for micromanagement. They already have, the business have already prioritized what they want, in which order they want. So there's no scope for, there's no need for micromanaging. That's why we see very little of that in reality. And they also get the regular feedbacks from the product owners. So I think that settles itself there.
Yep, good feedback. There's very little room for micromanagement in Scrum. Also, if you just read it again and understand the people who co-developed it, right? Dr. Jeff Sutherland, former U.S. Air Force Top Gun, biostatistician, PhD, TEDx speaker, just a brilliant gentleman, humble at the same time. And Ken Schwaber from the Merchant Navy. They knew 2 heads were better than 1, and a smaller group or unit was better than a committee. And they clearly say with members of the dev team, there is no seniority, there is no rank. We're considered a member of the dev team, right? That's it. Keep your ego out at the door. We're specialists in what we do, but there's that T-shape analogy as well. We should be able to lean on each other. And when you eliminate that rank or that hierarchy, then it's more collaborative and you don't need that micromanagement.
Okay, I'm going to end the discussion here. We are 1 minute from the top of the hour. So thank you, everybody, for sharing. Any last words from you, Bob?
No, I'd like to thank everybody for participating and wish everyone who celebrates Hanukkah a happy Hanukkah and a very wonderful holiday season for the remainder of the year. And Nitin and I are definitely looking forward to working with you and John next year.
Yep. Nitin, any last words from you before we sign off?
No, this was great. Thank you, everybody. One of us usually does stay on later and it's not recorded. I can certainly do that today.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Okay.
I can stay too.
And some last words from me. One is that, again, I want to echo what Bob says. I want to wish those of you celebrating Hanukkah a happy Hanukkah, as well as those celebrating Christmas and, of course, New Year's. And let's look for a much more happy and prosperous and healthy New Year for all of us next year. And we at PMINJ wish you a safe holiday And we look forward to, hopefully, maybe there'll be an opportunity for us to do something in person next year.